Hi, I'm Dr. Abe Unger, head of school at Emmett Classical Academy. Classical education is a deep immersion in the history of Western civilization. We start with antiquity, work our way through medieval, and even modern. But the idea is to show students the great ideas that have formed the moment we're in now. But how can we understand where we are now without knowing where we come from? Classical English means we study the history of great literature. We start with ancient, a lot of historical novels. We'll read modern ones too, and work our way down from Beowulf, through Chaucer's Canterbury Tales, through Elizabethan English, such as Shakespeare, all the way down to modern literature. And the students really develop a sense of how this language developed. We focus on grammar, we focus on rhetoric, public speaking. We elicit from each student their best ideas from seminar-style learning where they have to debate the primary texts of our Western tradition and cite those texts. We elicit from them their own thoughts and create great independent critical thinkers. Classical math is the highest level of traditional math plus the philosophy of math and the history of ideas of math. So students will cover Algebra 1, Geometry, Algebra 2, Trigonometry, Pre-Cal, AP courses, all the traditional material they'll get in any other school at the highest level, but they'll also get the history of ideas of math, the philosophy of math that one normally does in college or grad school. We'll distill it down for middle school students and high school students, so students appreciate the art and the beauty of math along with the discipline itself. Classical history is the history of the West using primary sources. So if we're going to study Rome, we study the great biographies. If we study the Romantic period, we read the great poetry of England, of Wordsworth, of Coleridge. If we study the modern period, let's say World War II, we'll read the speeches of Winston Churchill, of Franklin Roosevelt. Students will have direct access, and they will interface intellectually directly with the great primary works of each period. The reason being this way they can form their own thoughts and evaluate history. History is a screening process. It's about what we think of the events and how they shape us. And so we'll provide the resources to let students decide for themselves how they will be shaped and how they then will go out to shape the world around them. By reading the formative works, the primary works of Western civilization from antiquity through modern, students will be shaped by the great leaders and figures of the West, and they will go out into the world armed with the great thoughts and ideas that will then take us even further in the progress of the Western story. By learning this history from its primary sources in seminar-style conversations, citing those sources, students learn how to think. They become independent critical thinkers. Their character is shaped and formed by the great leaders and histories they're studying, and they're prepared to become leaders to take our civilization one step forward. Classical science is science at the highest level, but also, similar to math, with the history of science, of the intellectual ideas of science that have driven it forward as a discipline, overlaid onto the actual work of science. So if one is studying physics, one doesn't only learn physics itself, but the history of ideas of competing theories within physics, much like what one might do in college or in grad school, but distilled, of course, for middle schoolers and high schoolers.